the spirit, never fear it, you'll see it through. On and fire of the heart with the fire, for the strong obey when the strong man shows them the way. Give me some men who are stout-hearted men who will fight for the right they adore. Start me with 10 who are stout-hearted men, and I'll soon give you 10,000 more. Oh, shoulder to shoulder, and bolder they grow as they go to the fore. Then there's nothing in the world can halt or mar a plan. When stout-hearted men can stick together, man to man. Give me some men who are stout-hearted men who will fight for the right they adore. Start me with 10 who are stout-hearted men, and shoulder to shoulder, and bolder they grow as they go to the fore. Then there's nothing in the world that holds or more a plan. When stout-hearted men can stick together, man oh man.
So on that note, I'd like to introduce Mr. Norman Scarth, my friend. Let me have it, my friend.
Prisoner A19O3CF. And I'm proud of that. No. Are there any gentlemen of the press present? No? Are there any of those sworn to keep the Queen's peace? No? Any members of the British Legion present? No? And I would apologise that our medals are not as shiny as they might be. But I'm a bit like those coming out of the trenches with mud on my boots. I don't have time to apologise. Anyway, where to start? First, perhaps, we should identify the enemy. Those who have brought or allowed Britain to become the Orwellian police state which it is now. I will say to start off with, I'm of the generation where gentlemen did not wear their hats indoors. Ladies did, but men didn't. So I don't normally wear mine indoors. I wear this for a purpose. This is the white beret of the Russian Convoy Club. I'm wearing that because of what it signifies. I'm not proud of that. I am not proud of those medals. I am proud to have been in prison. Paul Henry Thoreau said 200 years ago, in a state which imprisons any unjustly, the true place for a just man is in prison. I'm proud to have been in prison. I'm proud that my fate has decided that my tiny feet should follow in the giant footsteps of Mahatma Gandhi, the suffragettes, Dietrich Bonhoeffer, Pastor Martin Niemöller, Alexander Solzhenitsyn, Sakharov, Vladimir Bukovsky, Nelson Mandela, Steve Biko, Ken Saro-Wiwa, Martin Luther King, Muhammad Ali, and so many more. Some who survived, many who did not. All have been convicts. So I'm proud to follow in their footsteps. With sadness, shame and sorrow, I am forced to tell you that I've said we must identify the enemy. I'm forced to tell you that it is the quislings of my generation which started the rot, followed by generations of quislings. World War II did not end with the defeat of Hitler. A fifth column was waiting in the wings. They didn't need to invade because they were already here. And they have achieved by stealth that which Hitler failed to do by force. We are not just fighting against corrupt politicians, the judicial mafia, bank coppers and the like. We are, sadly, fighting most of the British people. I say it again with sadness, shame and sorrow. 33% of the British people are corrupt, 33% are brainwashed, and 33% are spineless. Only 1% or thereabouts have conscience and courage enough to speak out, to protest. The question is, how can we open the eyes of the brainwashed and ignite a spark of courage in the spineless? On becoming aware of the depth and width of the rot within the nation, many feel we must make a frontal attack on the establishment fortress. A futile task, I fear, because it is an impregnable fortress. All power comes out of the barrel of a gun, and they have the guns. The pen is mightier than the sword, they say. It may be, but they not only have guns, but they have bigger pens than ours. Our so-called news media are an essential part of this police state, as was Joseph Goebbels in Nazi Germany. He must be smiling from his grave. Instead of picketing and protesting outside the courts, Downing Street and such like places, we must picket the press, the Yorkshire post offices, Bradford Telegrams, those places, and let them know and expose them for what they are doing, for their treachery. If the so-called news media were doing their job, none of this corruption could happen. How to tackle the rotten apples among our judges? You may feel, many of you, that the real power is the banksters, as some call them, or the Bilderbergers, the Illuminati, the Freemasonry, etc. I'm sure they all have their part, and they are forces for evil. But the those that have the power over us are the judiciary, the judicial mafia. And so they, in my view, they are the ones we must tackle. How do we expose the rotten apples amongst them? When one of them is at risk, the rest close ranks to protect the rotten apples, as Lord Justice Pickford did, so that His Honour, Judge Rose, the man that sent me to Armley Jail, would not be exposed for the sadist that he is. They close ranks. So how do we get at them? Instead of taking them all on, or trying to expose the whole rotten evil, as I say, not the system, but the people who run the system, I liken the situation to a pack of hunting dogs tackling a herd of wildebeest or buffaloes. The rest close ranks, a row of horns presented to an attacker. Let one of the hunting dogs get too near and he will be gored or trampled underfoot. So, the hunting dogs do not make a frontal attack. They separate one from the herd, and the herd will then abandon that one to his fate. All the dogs, the hunting dogs, then concentrate on that one who's been separated and are able to bring him down. Follow that principle. If we can bring one down, we have shown that we can do it again. I believe there is one who is ripe for separation. And I have ideas on how that can be. Before anything else, maybe, no, as part of the whole thing, some people that wrote to me in prison compared my treatment to all these wicked looters and rioters. They were attacking the wrong target in blaming them. Sure, the rioting and looting was a set-up job. Make no mistake about that. With agent provocateurs and the police standing back to allow the looting and encourage it. The reason for that was so many people were outraged at the brutal policing that caused the death of Ian Tomlinson. And it was only someone with a camera, one of us with a camera, that was able to expose their cover-up, what happened. So the police were outraged about that. So we then come to the, what is it now? There's a 3-word: problem, reaction, solution. Right? I'm not certain who coined those three phrases, but if the powers that be, the evil ones, want to achieve something, they create a problem. The original problem was that the people were outraged at the death of Ian Tomlinson and the brutal policing that caused it. Established, how can we turn that around, they thought. I know, let's, the first chance we get, first excuse, if there's a rioting or unrest, let's encourage and allow the rioting and the looting to take place. We will then have the brainwashed people screaming, oh, we must have more robust policing, as they call it. Brutal policing is what they mean. So they've now got the people demanding more of a police state, more brutal policing. So they're going to respond to the demand from the people, supposedly the people, by bringing in more of a police state. So I don't know how many of you have tippled to that it was a put-up job. I think that's what time how long have I gone on for? I haven't been up, what, 20 minutes? Yeah, I could go on for ever more. But I think I've said enough for the time. Oh, I will say this. Sadly, the British people are brainwashed by the so-called news media into believing that prisons are holiday camps. Believe you me, they are not. They are bad places run by very evil people. The few prison officers with humanity never rise above the lowest rank. The higher up they are, the worse the prison staff are. 100 people a year, men and women, are driven to take their own lives. So there are no holiday camps, as people are led to believe. And I believe that when people are driven to take their own lives, it is not suicide, as they say, it is a very nasty form of murder. So believe you me, they are not holiday camps. Okay, the public scream, oh, they're holiday camps, they've got wonderful food and luxury colour TV. Well, I regard TV as part of the punishment. Being forced to watch the pap laced with poison that they fill our brains with. So that is no luxury. So, anyway, what they did to me, some of you know I've already, prior to this, I've only spent 7 years this time. I've already previously spent 7 years. First of all, under unlawful but effective house arrest. After the first, what was really an assassination attempt on me, 8th of August 1999. 11 months after that, I was under unlawful but very effective house arrest. Then followed 4 years of imprisonment in many different prisons. for a non-existent crime, believe me or believe me not, then after 4 years having paid my debt to society, I was due to walk free. Instead, I was dragged off to a lunatic asylum, completely unlawfully. I never thought they'd ever let me out alive, but a miracle happened. I finally came before a consultant psychiatrist who was not a complete puppet of the state. And he decided I was cured from my paranoid delusions. My paranoid delusions being that there were many rotten apples amongst our judges. And if you think that, you're crackers.
Totally nuts, all of us.
So, anyway, those were my paranoid delusions. Anyway, this very good consultant psychiatrist cured me and then released me. Even he knew I never should have been in a nut house, but he didn't dare release me there and then, because that would have been rocking the boat too much. So he had to put me through a 6-month period of rehabilitation, being allowed out into the community bit by bit. First of all, with a male escort in the ground of the nut house, then with a female escort, would you believe? Then to go with an escort into the town, and finally allowed on my own. And then finally, my release. I am still under this psychiatrist, and a wonderful friend of mine, my community psychiatric nurse, we get on wonderfully well. And they want to get rid of me now. They say, you're cured. I say, no, I'm not. No, I'm not. I can feel it all coming on me again. you must. There are branches in big trackers. there are some advantages. So I say, no, please don't, no, in between their visits, I say, I can see myself deteriorate in between, so please don't abandon me. Anyway, that's that. I didn't study at, I left school at 13, by the way, but at 74 years of age, I went as a student at the University of Leeds, the law faculty, and I was the star of the new intake, 74, because I had just been announced I'd had a victory in the European Court of Human Rights. Actually, it was a commission of human rights at that time, and it was still to go before the full court of human rights. But 17 members of the commission had ruled unanimously that I'd been a victim of a violation of Article 6. And so that had been taking place just at the time that I started at the University of Leeds. And Professor Clive Walker, a human rights specialist, who travels all over the world and publishes books and lectures about human rights. Ha 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 ha. He offered to come with me to Strasbourg. He couldn't represent me because he hadn't got a practice certificate. But he offered to come as my lay representative. Well, a lay representative who was a professor of law was going to be pretty high-powered. Anyway, that was when he and the rest of the tutors said, oh, you must give the other students a lecture on your success in the European Court of Human Rights. At that time they thought I'd just won some little technical victory. When they realised it was part of my mission to expose the rotten apples in the judiciary, they backpedaled like mad. And they were doing their best, after a year, they were doing their best to get rid of me. They didn't need to, because it was just at that time that came the first. If I say it was an assassination attempt, I'm not exaggerating too much. So anyway, so I have studied law, and I am the national expert in one aspect of law. That is skullduggery in the law. I may not know much about conveyancing or lots of other stuff, but by heck, I am an expert on skullduggery.
And if I could just interject as well, because I don't think everybody is aware that's here of your actual success in the European courts, because you had a single-handed success in getting the Article 6, which is the right to a fair trial. Mr. Norman Scarth, sat here before us all, actually had that written into UK legislation.
Into the 1990 Human Rights Act?
Yes.
I did that single-handed.
It was him.
And I
think you need to shout more about these things.
no, but not bad for a lad who left school at 13, is it? Been a
No.
small fibre or man. Not bad for a lunatic, was it? Not bad for a lunatic. So yeah, but believe you me, you would think that would gain me some respect from the legal profession. No, they do not like trespassers. The change it brought in British law is hated by lawyers and judges, and I am hated for it. And it was just 17 days after the European Court of Human Rights had confirmed the decision of its commission that I had been a victim of a violation of Article 6. Just 17 days after came that first murderous attack on me on the 8th of August 1999. There has been a nationwide cover-up of that. All those human rights organisations, Liberty, Amnesty International, Justice, etc., they are all puppets of the state. Anyway, so
I just wanted to ask, it was around about the age of 70 that you sort of stumbled across
exactly.
injustice that is right within the legal system.
Yes.
Well, what brought that about?
someone, I didn't believe that British judges were the finest in the world, and the British legal system was the finest in the world, because that's what I'd been told all my life. I was proud to have done my bit in World War II to keep the Nazis from our shores. And then, it was purely by chance really, someone invented a bogus debt of £697 against me. It was completely bogus, proved it wasn't my debt, and the debt had already been paid by the person whose debt it was, proved by these people who took me to court, to the small claims court for that. And the judge, district judge, I've got it all there written down, it's in my book, Cause for Concern. I'm going to see now, you must forgive me. Anyway, he ruled against me. And it isn't a case of being a bad loser. You know, we can all be bad, but there's right and wrong, and it was so blindingly obvious. They said their own documents proved that the debt wasn't mine and the debt had been paid. So that was a terrible shock. British judges are the finest in the world. But I found there is one district judge, the lowest level here, who is either a complete idiot or corrupt. And that was a terrible shock to me. And so I thought, oh well, the next judge will see the truth. You know, there can only be one. There can't be any more than one idiot or corrupt judge. So I took that to the county court proper. And it came before a judge who I nicknamed, in my book Cause for Concern, I gave them all nicknames. But I also give the correct names as well, later on. And I think if I remember, I called him His Honour Judge Sozzled. And he effectively said, not in so many words, but he said, you dare to criticise a judge, thump, and awarded another about £1,200 cost against me.
Okay.
So then I'd learned that there were two dishonest judges. I thought then, so naive, so gullible. I thought, when the press sees this, oh, they will be shocked and they will blow it sky high.
But no.
So I ran the Yorkshire Post. Oh yeah, terrible, go away. That was the response from the Yorkshire Post. So that's when I realised that the press, the so-called news media, are our enemies. That case I took up to the appeal court in Britain, and thump, thump, thump every time. Okay. So by that time I'd realised that there wasn't just one dishonest judge, there wasn't just two, there were a lot more. And that's the case I took to the European Court of Human Rights and was successful there. Thanks to me, hearings in chambers always used to be heard in secret, you may or may not have. And that was where judges and counsel, the two sets of barristers, got together in chambers, and that's where all the skullduggery and the car books took place. Never mind what you see in court, but hearings in chambers are where all the skullduggery takes place. Thanks to me, all hearings, including those in chambers, including small claims courts, and hearings in chambers, are open to the public, other than in exceptional circumstances, which must be stated. So that, thanks to me. Mind you, they're supposed to be open to the public. They'll find all sorts of excuses why not. Oh, there aren't enough chairs. There isn't room. Now, Lord Wolfe, in fact,
safety is a favourite thing.
Lord Wolfe, when he was Master of the Rolls, or Lord Chief Justice, I forget which, he made an order that if there are too many people to get into a courtroom, it must be moved to a larger courtroom. That was one of his rulings. But that's what it's supposed to be. But they will find all sorts of excuses to keep you out, including not to let anybody know that it's happening at all. So how can hearing reach? Article 6 says everyone is entitled to a fair and public hearing before an independent and impartial tribunal. How can it be a public hearing if nobody knows it's taking place?
Yeah.
So that's my little success. It's supposed to have brought a big change in British law, and it has in theory, but they spit on that themselves. In fact, I've got to tell you, any of you who may be thinking to go to the European Court of Human Rights, they are as corrupt as our own lot. I say that in spite of my success there, and it was during my success that I learnt just how corrupt they are. And since then, I have gone back to the European Court of Human Rights with another case exactly the same in essence as the one that I British government were not only in breach of Article 6, but they were in breach of the promise that they had given to the European Court of Human Rights that such things that had happened to me previously could never happen again. So the British government was in breach, and I repeat myself there, not only of Article 6, but of the very promise they had given to my case. And the European Court of Human Rights begrudged me the ones, or the lawyers who run that outfit of shysters, begrudged me that one victory, and are determined that I will never get another. I'll never win again, even though, I say, it was exactly the same as the previous case that I'd won. So, certainly go to them, but don't think they're, oh, let me tell you, no, I must tell you this. If ever you are going to the European Court of Human Rights, never criticise the judge that you've been before. Because the great Lord Denning, as some considered him, some consider Lord Denning to be the greatest judge of the 20th century. Some. It was he that said, amongst other things, better that innocent men should remain in prison, that the integrity of the judiciary impugned, be impugned, which was a gross violation of that integrity. And he also said, in a lecture to a particular society at Birmingham University, where he qualified, in the lecture there, he said, no British judge, or it may be an English judge, I can't say, you can find it, it's in the law libraries, no British judge has been biased for the last 300 years. And all our courts follow that, and the European Court of Human Rights follow that. If ever you go to the European Court of Human Rights, make sure you don't criticise a judge. I went through the 40-year survey, the European Court of Human Rights' own 40-year survey from, I think, 1955 to 1995. And in the whole of that, it gives brief details of each case and brief details and the result. And during that 40 years, apart from an odd court-martial, no case criticising a British judge has ever got to the court, never been decided.
While you were in prison, how did you spend your days? And were you aware of the campaign that was going on outside?
Yeah, scribbling, trying to get my... Great difficulty getting a sheet of writing paper, would you? Certainly for the first... When you've been in there a fair while, but when people send stamps and writing paper and envelopes, they confiscate them, won't they have them? And so the first 2 or 3 weeks, you were jobbed to get a sheet of paper, even to write on. Eventually you can buy them, but it takes you a fortnight to be able to buy stuff from the canteen. And that's, they won't let you have stamps because they're determined that you'll spend what little money you have. I had a month's pension with me when I was in there, about over £400. But you're only allowed to spend so much in the canteen each week. And that includes phone calls, stamps, and anything else you may want. I had to buy sugar, eventually, because I love lots of sugar. And I became the sugar baron on the wing. I did, I became the sugar baron. And I bought Blackpool myself and others. Oh, let me tell you this. The first time I went into prison 10 years ago, the age of 75, never had anything to do with crime, criminals or prisons. I was fearful of being locked up with murderers and thugs and rapists and the most evil people in the world. It was a great shock to find that most of the prisoners are decent human beings. Very pleasant shock. But it was an equal shock to find that the most vicious criminals are those with the keys. Yeah, there are some bad people in there, but the first time they treated me as a hero, and they did this time. On this occasion...
You are a hero.
Thank you. For the first week, how do you pass your time? Doctor orders that I should keep my feet up. So, at home, I spend 2 or 3 hours on the computer, the internet, whatnot, and then I lie down on the bed, or sitting up in the bed, I listen to the radio, maybe snoozing, reading, that sort of thing. In prison I couldn't do that because I was on my own, which was a good thing. I'm not antisocial, but it was better that I was on my own for various reasons. So I was on the bottom bunk, only that much head, couldn't sit up, no light to be able to read by. So I'm there writing, trying to write. Still, I do get cramp in my hands after a spell. Writing, trying to do my appeal on the scraps of paper I was able to get. I used to get complaint forms there, so we conveyed an application form. You've got to make applications for everything under the sun, and you don't always know what applications you can make. You know, until you find them. I used to use these and scribble on the back of those and get cramp in my hands. So I was either writing, trying to do my appeal, in spite of the cramp and whatnot, or lying on my bunk, thinking, as I do it now at home, thinking, composing, trying to find words to say what I want to do. And then, if I go to bed at 11 or 12 o'clock at night, wake up at 3 o'clock, that's it! Yeah! Those are the words. I then jump out of bed when I'm at home saying, get it down on the computer. But you forget it. If you don't get it down there, then next morning, if you go down there and think it's gone. So I tended to do that there. So I was busy the whole of the time, either trying to write as best I could, or lying down, thinking and composing and whatnot. And then I did devise, I then managed to get a table and chair to clamber up on the top bunk so that I could read in bed, or read sitting up in bed. So I did that. But so that kept me more than fully occupied. But the boredom, and if you don't have that to do, the boredom is mind-blowing, really.
Did word get into the prison about the demonstration outside?
Pardon?
Did word get into you about
Oh yes, it did. Oh yes. Oh, I meant to tell you actually, during the first week, all the screws I think they treat most new men hard, contemptuous of anybody going in. After a week or so, or a bit longer, maybe certainly for a fortnight, word began to get to them. This was Norman Scarth, who was fairly well known. So the lower rank, the few of the screws with a bit of humanity, not all of them, started to treat me with some respect and be helpful to a certain degree. Would do photocopying for me and things like that. So yeah, but not the higher ones. Oh no. If they've got a scrap of humanity, they are never. An awful lot of those men should not be in there anyway. I say most of them decent human beings. All right, some of them have broken the laws, but I tend to say, and as regards this recording in court, I believe, I've said many times, it is our duty to disobey bad laws.
Absolutely.
And stand the consequences.
Yeah.
Okay? Hopefully, it's one way we can bring about change. So, one of the worst is the new Harassment Act, supposedly brought in because, sadly, there were several, mostly women, who were murdered by husbands, ex-husbands, boyfriends or such like, who had been stalking them for periods of time. And these women had begged the police for protection. Never got the protection and were in fact murdered. There were several, I don't know how many altogether. I can think of 3 or 4. Anyway, the Harassment Act was brought in supposedly to combat stalking. It was designed and used for a very different purpose. It was designed to give the police an excuse to harass us on the slightest excuse. You only need to ring someone up twice or walk down the street twice, and that is then harassment. So that is one of the very many bad laws. An awful lot under the Blair regime.
You were aware of the demonstrations we had?
Oh yes.
How did word get to you, Norman?
People coming in. One of the nurses came in, and I never got to see a doctor ever. In Spain, you're supposed to see one in the first 24 hours, and I specifically asked to see one. Never got to see one. Never got the medication I need. When I say need, no, I'm in good health, my age. But I am a prime candidate for a stroke or a heart attack, thrombosis, and I do take medication prescribed from the outside, which is supposed to reduce the likelihood. I was denied all those for about a month, I think. And others I take for cramp and folic acid because I'm slightly anemic, or I was, maybe I'm not now, because I took folic acid, denied those. The nurses were good, but they were overworked, and one of the nurses did eventually give me some of the medication without me ever seeing the doctor anyway, which I'm not sure that's right, because I don't know that nurses are supposed to prescribe things, are they? But
they can,
good on
them. They change.
Well, it took my say-so, what I should get, but it took me best part of a month, I'm sure, to get that. Anyway, she did come in one day, and she said, "Oh yes, I've seen this." But I didn't have time to stop, but I could treat it about you and whatnot. Oh, and then there's an odd. Army prison actually is category D. It's category B, C or D, or some category D, who actually went outside to work. Now they wouldn't categorise me, because if they had to categorise me, I'd have to be category D, and therefore could have been allowed out during the day and back in at night. But no, they wouldn't categorise me because of that. They couldn't make up their mind whether I was a criminal convict or a civil criminal prisoner or a civil. Because I was a criminal when it suited them for me to be criminal. I was civil when it suited them for me to be civil. So
they were scared of it. The world was scared of it.
Oh, without a shadow of doubt, yeah. Little old me. Little old me. Hey, bye.
Could you just comment on anybody that wants to follow in your footsteps?
Yes.
Probably we think that justice is there, but you were denied a lot of, let's say, access to things.
Oh yeah.
And if you didn't have things like telephone numbers and addresses to hand,
Yeah.
it's physically a possibility from somebody outside to actually
No, yeah. And
get in to see you. And if you just elaborate on that.
we are, different prisons vary. But in Bradford, in Armley Jail, you're allowed to have 20 telephone numbers on your list. And you've got to write those numbers down, and then they're on your list, and you're then supposed to be allowed to ring them. Well, I used to put those down on my list, and they never got onto my list. I'd simply get the message, you are not allowed to ring this number. So I only ever got to be allowed to ring 4.
But your numbers, you've got to know them.
And you've got to know them to be able to.
If you don't know them,
if you don't know them, you can't remember them. Yeah, or somebody send you in via letter, then yeah. So the first one that I got was one of my supporters did write into me with their full name and address and the telephone numbers, and 1 or 2 I couldn't remember. But one that I could remember was one of my legal advisors, not a lawyer, a solicitor, but one of my. I could remember her number, and I got her number on my list as soon as after I was in, the first few days. And then, during that first week, I was able to ring on the Thursday evening and the Friday morning. Friday evening, you are not allowed to ring this number. And that continued for over a month.
No,
So,
were you given a reason for any of this?
Yes.
Prescribe your medicine, you can't do this,
Oh,
you
yeah,
can't do
no.
that. Were the reasons given?
We think that the rules and that are petty and silly and nonsense. No, they're not. They're, I'm sure, scientifically designed to frustrate and torment you and drive you to react against it. Believe me, they are. The rules, and as to the complaints procedure, ha ha ha. But all complaints procedures to all government departments are designed and used not to resolve the complaint, but to send you running around in circles till your brain becomes addled, or you collapse from exhaustion, or you give up in disgust. And those are the complaint procedures, in prison and everywhere else. You would do better to write to Lord Lucan, or Elvis Presley, or Father Christmas. You'll stand more chance of getting a meaningful reply. So yeah, there are the rules. And there are the rules, of course, and they are designed to torment. And they've only got to use the word security, no matter how farcically, and they can do whatever they like. And then they make rules upon the spur of the moment as well. So, but they aren't as daft as they seem. They are designed to torment you and to drive you to take your own life, and so many do so. 2 every week in our British prisons. I don't know what the figure is right now.
Trying to break you.
Yeah, oh yes. And in fact, they break the strongest people. It is, to me, there's sort of a bit of a contradiction there. But the weaker ones just crumble anyway and do what they're told and follow all the good. But the stronger ones that resist, stronger ones mentally, will resist more. The more you resist, the more spirit you show, the more they will oppress and persecute you. Well, that's my thinking anyway. It's the strongest ones that are driven.
But the weak ones are probably used to being suppressed.
So
it doesn't affect them as much, whereas stronger people that have never been suppressed, when it does happen to them, they react.
And let's make it clear, maybe. Prisons are maybe not bad places for the professional criminals that look on it as one of the, what's the term, to risks of the job. Okay, you do the crime deliberately and knowing it, you get caught, you do the time. So anyone that goes to prison with that in mind, then prison's not so bad. They obey the rules and say yes sir and no sir. Let me say now, there is a man, a Professor David Wilson. He's a Professor of Criminology at Birmingham University. Might be West Midlands University now, anyway. He used to be a prison governor. And he has said that prisons are a very expensive and quite useless way of dealing with crime. I agree with him. And I would, as the anti-crime party, when I founded the anti-crime party, I said that they are used. He said they should all be pulled down.
When did you do that, Norman? When did you found the
answer? Parliament for the first time in 1997 in Chesterfield, a town I'd never set foot in before in my life. I didn't win, but Chesterfield was one of only 4 seats in the whole of Britain where the massive swing to Labour was reversed. And that was thanks to me. And that I didn't win, didn't expect to do. But I did in fact sow the seed which ended the parliamentary career of Tony Benn. Not Tony Benn. He won that time but with a much reduced majority, and rather than stand for the next election he resigned, saying he wanted to give more time to politics. I sowed the seeds which caused him to resign. That's my claim anyway.
Can you say how you...
Pardon?
Is it true that you asked for people not to vote for you,
yeah,
but to vote for the
I
Conservative
said to people, very rarely, I actually told people, I went to Chesterfield, a town I'd never set foot before in my life. Went there only hours before nominations closed, knocked on door to found 10 people to second me and nominate me, and then went up to the council office to put down my £500, the last £500 I had in the bank to stand. And in my manifesto, I told people, don't vote for me, vote for the Lib Dem. Not because I particularly supported the Lib Dem, but I had no chance of beating Tony Benn, but the Lib Dems did. So I still got 200 votes, even though I'd said, don't vote for me, which is very good indeed, actually. No supporters, no nothing, just on my own. All I had was a sandwich board on me, offering leaflets in the market square. But in fact, the Lib Dem got 3,500 more votes than he should have done. And I claim that was thanks to me. And in fact, it was the Lib Dem that did win the following election in 2001. So I claim, all right, maybe, yeah. So, I only stood on that occasion as an independent old age pensioner, and I did stand there really only to challenge Tony Benn for something that he'd said. All right, we can start on, that's another story, if you like. I did enter the first black mark against my name was in 1994, and then the black marks got heavier and heavier away up till I stood for Parliament in 1997, and then it got heavier, but it didn't become really heavy, until I had my victory in the European Court of Human Rights. Because up till then, standing in Chesterfield, I was just a noisy old buffoon, a parliamentary no-hoper. But having won in the European Court of Human Rights, I was no longer a noisy old buffoon. I was a force to be reckoned with. And that's why, as I've said, 17 days after that decision, or 17 days after the court itself confirmed the decision of the Commission of Human Rights, just 17 days after that came the first murderous attack upon me. And so then came my time in prison and in the nut house, many prisons, 2 different nut houses. And it was after I came out of prison that I then founded the Anti-Crime Party. And I stated in that, our main focus is on crime by people with power, not the little criminals. We, the Anti-Crime Party, when I'm saying we, did and do have ideas for reducing crime by little criminals, as I say, and would be effective. More effective than what we have at present. But as our main focus was on crime, corruption and war. Vote against crime, corruption and war. Sadly, most of the people voted for more crime, corruption and war. I'm going to say that my big hope at the 2010 election, after the exposure of all the expenses swindles and so on, I hoped that the British people would throw out most of the sitting members. They didn't. They voted for more of the same. More crime, more corruption, more war.